Thank you for joining us today on our first Secure Framework webinar around examining contained threats with advanced reporting and endpoint protection tools. As you can tell, my voice is a little out, so I'm going to try to keep this short. But as a token of appreciation, we are gifting those $25 gift cards to our first 100 attendees, and we will be providing instructions shortly. This is a joint webinar with our esteemed partner, Trend Micro, and they are leading the way in cybersecurity. In the last 18 years, they have been ranked as a top 3 global leader in endpoint, server, and email protections. OTAVA delivers secure and compliant multi-cloud solutions and top-tier professional services to address critical modern challenges. We are known as a secure and compliant multi-cloud solution. With that, I'm going to start unconventionally from right to left, just because I've been talking and I haven't introduced myself formally. My name is Irma Brillantes, and I'm the Product Marketing and Digital Specialist. We also have our esteemed Kent Stevens, who is Director of Product Management and Cybersecurity at Trend Micro, and our very own Chaz Motter, who is a Senior Product Manager and the mastermind behind the acrostic of the Secure Framework. We will be covering a lot of topics, but overall, the overview of the Secure Framework, the 2 letters that we're going to dive and dig deeper in are examine and monitor and analyze. And the second one being contain the attack vectors. We'll provide some examples of both. And then OTAVA's partnership with Trend Micro. And then leave some room here for a Q&A. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chaz Motter, but before I do, I just want to say thank you again for those who've signed up recently. We are aiming to provide that $25 gift card here shortly. Those instructions will be towards the end, so please stay tuned and we'll get you to it.
Thanks, Irma, for teeing us up. As she said, I'm Chaz Motter, Senior Product Manager here at OTAVA. We're here today on our first webinar for the Secure Framework, one of many to come. OTAVA's Secure Approach to Business Resiliency. So overall, Secure stands for Shrink the Attack Surface, Examine through analyzing reports and monitoring, Contain the attack vectors, Undo the damage, Recover your workloads, and Evaluate your security posture continually. And all of these letters relate to products in our catalog, and we are here to help our clients work through their cybersecurity approach using the Secure Framework as a frame of reference and conversation points to make sure we hit on everything that's important to a complete cybersecurity approach. So for Examine, we want to monitor and analyze anomalies and event threats in the environment. Key features of this are event correlation, real-time alerting, flexible reporting. We have basic VM level monitoring on all of the VMs hosted in our environment. Our support team is available 24/7, 365, and we will work with your team to tune your alerts so that we can drown out the noise and focus on what's important. Here at OTAVA, we have an integrated tools approach, so we integrate all of our tools in our stack to work together to provide you a comprehensive solution. We've designed these solutions for you so you don't have to go out and piecemeal a cybersecurity strategy yourself, and we create centralized visibility. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Kent to talk about how we leverage Trend Micro to examine the environment.
So perfect. So obviously, reporting is a key component of all of this, and being able to obviously monitor all events into one area, very, very key. But at the end of the day, Trend Micro is here to provide flexible reporting to make sure that we provide the right metrics at the right time. Comprehensive reports that can be generated on demand or scheduled to meet the customer's needs at the end of the day. But really, it's about driving insight and visibility into what's happening, driving both a proactive approach when it comes to our reporting capabilities, whether it's at the server or the endpoint or even in the email channel, And then being able to provide that capability to have improved decision making as you become more resilient and have that posture management being there, continuously being monitored within the environment.
So now we're going to move on to contain, which is where Trend Micro shines. We use Trend Micro deep security to protect your servers through anti-malware, file integrity monitoring, and log review. And then we use Trend's worry-free suite of products for your workstation endpoint protection, email security, cloud app security, and their XDR platform. What this allows us to do is create some event correlation from, let's say, an attack comes in through email, infects a workstation, and is moving through your environment. That event correlation allows us to kind of track that attack through the chain and cut it off as soon as possible. Again, we've consolidated vendors with Trend Micro for this security stack to leverage their event correlation in their XDR platform. We are highly compliant at OTAVA here, focusing on HIPAA, PCI, SOC, high trust, so we can meet all of your compliance needs and help you with audits and things like that. We have fully managed solutions, so we take care of everything within the Trend Micro platform for you, so you can be completely hands-off, and we use those reports to deliver you the visibility. With that, I'll hand it over to Kent to talk more about how Trend Micro contains these attack vectors using their software.
Yeah, so perfect. So essentially at the end of the day, we build purpose-built solutions, whether it's for server, whether it's for endpoint, whether it's for email gateway, or even your cloud apps. These are purpose-built. And when we talk about attack vectors today, email is the number one attack vector. We see a lot of ransomware coming in through the email channel, right? We also see attacks on the Microsoft 365 apps. And having a good posture when it comes to email is so critical. Making sure you can protect against known and unknown malware, making sure you have the abilities to deal with advanced threats. So dealing with ransomware and variance protection when it comes to files, but then coupling that with sandboxing capabilities for things that we've never seen before or we cannot do DNA or fingerprinting on. So we've seen a large explosion in this space where it comes to attacks. This is easily done because it's actually can just be controlled through an email. So we see this happening more and more. This does not require a sophisticated approach to really attack, but we are seeing more when it comes to business email compromise, credential phishing, and even AI. So it's AI-based attacks. So leveraging things like QR codes. And essentially we want to be able to see into those spaces and provide protection when it comes to that. And Trend believes in a multi-layer approach. We think about security like we think about the onion. At the end of the day, the more layers we pile on, the better we are, the better protected. So Trend, on the email channel, we have a gateway functionality purposely built, obviously, to deal with that ingress and egress traffic coming out through the gateway. But we also have internal capabilities. So when we think of Office 365 or G Suite, we have the ability to see between mailboxes, because once an identity is compromised and they start to move email laterally, we want to have the capabilities to be able not only to see what comes in through the front door, but also what moves between mailboxes and within your Microsoft stack. So seeing correlation between the applications, Outlook, Teams, we want to have visibility and protection in all of those spaces. So coverage is complete and completely managed by OTAVA. So they can take care of it and basically at the end of the day provide comprehensive email solutions. Next slide.
Kent, really quickly, could we also discuss how customers use a sandbox without disrupting product?
Perfect. So sandbox is on demand. So essentially at the end of the day, what we do is what we actually don't want to interfere with customers. So essentially the way we deliver this is in a seamless approach where we actually feed it to the sandbox very quickly, and then we use API capabilities to pull it back. So essentially this is not waiting for an email to be delivered and being held up in a queue. We want to make sure that email gets delivered to the end user but at the same time, make sure we scrutinize that email through our sandboxing capabilities, which Trend Micro has been doing for a number of years. But if we do see something malicious, it's automated response to pull that mail back, so that at the end of the day, you're not waiting for a queue, you're not waiting for others to be sandboxed in front of you. If that email comes back and it's clean, it's already there and available, and the solution acts very quickly. This is milliseconds. So the time that your Outlook app might update on your phone or whatever solution you may be using, we actually pull it back before the next resync. It's done within seconds. Great question.
Thank you for that explanation.
No worries. So when it comes to the endpoint side, Trend Micro builds purpose-built. We look at servers and user endpoints a little bit differently. They have a different profile. Servers are always on. They have compliance standards. We can do file integrity monitoring and log inspection to making sure you're compliant. And if any of those major components are being tampered with, we can provide visibility. When we talk about the endpoint, though, we're talking a little bit of a different security threat. You know, endpoints, when they're behind the firewall, have those great capabilities of what you can do at the network level. But once they leave that environment, you need to have comprehensive security to deal very quickly when it comes to the different attack vectors. And with our worry-free offering, you can see many different capabilities built into a single agent. But I'm going to focus in on a couple capabilities today. First one is machine learning when it comes to what we do. And we do this at 4 stages during execution of a file: pre-execution, execution, post-execution, and then runtime. So the ability to do machine learning is about fingerprinting. And Trend Micro has a long history of dealing with malware, 35 plus years today of dealing with this. So what we've learned over those years is, you know, the cyber criminals, they actually do like everyone else, they copy and paste. So based off characteristics that we fingerprinted, we can quickly examine a new file in your environment, compare it to characteristics of known malware, and make a very quick determination. Is this something we've seen before? Is this code that we've seen embedded in other pieces of malware? But having the ability to do variance protection. And then when it comes to ransomware protection, it's really about looking at the behavior based on execution. We know how ransomware, works today. Essentially, they execute, they can run it from memory, but what really they're trying to do is really modify and encrypt files so they can hold them ransom. And Trend Micro has been at the forefront of this since the beginning. And what we do here is we really look at the behavior. So if 3 files are modified within the same folder within a 30-second period, we kick off our backup capability, which we start to make backups of the files within that folder while we fight the process to kill it, allowing organizations to have minimal impacts to their data and get back any potentially encrypted or modified files, so that at the end of the day, their data loss is very, very minimal. And the other component is IPS, so the ability to do vulnerability protection. So OTAVA has a great solution that does it at the network level, but once they leave the environment, we have to do it at the host level. And this is where worry-free does really well. And if you're familiar with Trend Micro, you know that we have one of the biggest bug bounty programs in the world called Zero Day Initiative. We work with our partners at Microsoft, VMware, Tesla, all of these different companies to really go out and work on the bugs, and we do have responsible disclosure. So we do have over 15,000 researchers who work with this program globally, and what we do is we actually incentivize it through very large payments. So if they do find a Microsoft bug, we pay up to $200,000 for these, so that we can buy it before the bad guys can, and then we work with the vendors themselves. But we provide protections for those critical capabilities, whether it's at the server level or whether it's at the endpoint level, where if a vulnerability is in the wild, we can actually provide protection by actually controlling the network communication channel, which is very vital, because once you leave the network, you still need that vulnerability protection, and we are there to provide it within our environment.
And before we transition, is protection of endpoints for remote users different from office employees? Added to documents too.
So from our perspective, yes, we have the ability to tell if it's an internal or external endpoint within the policy, and we want to provide additional layers. You can relax a little bit inside the network because you have that network perimeter there to protect you, but once you leave it, you need to have the strongest security posture possible, and that's the way Trend Micro looks at it. And I'll hand it to Chez to see if he has anything to add to that.
Yeah, and this is why it's so critical to protect those endpoints because once they leave that secured network environment, what you've essentially done is open a door into your secured network environment because those endpoints have the capability to access easily your crown jewels, so to speak, within your network. So if you don't have comprehensive protection on those workstations that your users are using and they get infected, it's very easy for malicious actors to leverage that access they have on the workstation and get into your network that you've spent the time securing. So that's why we push hard to put all of the endpoints on Trend Micro worry free so that we can ensure that they're safe and make it harder for attackers to get into your network leveraging that doorway. So now I'm going to speak a little bit about OTAVA's partnership with Trend. We've talked about how they're leading the cybersecurity market with their enterprise suite of products. Consolidating security services with a vendor that can cover everything is critical. That's why we love Trend Micro because we can protect not only the servers, but your endpoint workstations, your email, your cloud apps, and that ensures a strong level of protection across our clients' cyber footprint. Trend supports over 500,000 organizations with 250 million individuals across clouds, network devices, and endpoints. So they know what they're doing. They're very established. We've worked with them for over 10 years. They've been in business since 1988 and put a lot of time, energy, and effort into their research. With that being said, can you talk a little bit more about the XDR capabilities and why it's so important to have kind of a consolidated security approach instead of piecemealing it together with different vendors?
Yeah, no, I can speak based on experience. In a former life, I was a SOC analyst. I worked off a piecemeal, a build for my model where I had to tie in multiple products. But having it consolidated from a single vendor is you get that approach where you can enhance visibility and capabilities. And when we think about XDR, we're thinking about like a black box on a plane where you're recording everything that's happening. So the threat actors, if they're really targeting you, nation states, the advanced threat actors, they're trying to be stealthy. They're getting around our normal security controls that are in place. They're, obviously credential dumping and finding our credentials and getting access that way. So we want to be recording continuously everywhere. So if and when that plane crashes, we have a black box to go back and piece it together. But with XDR, we can also do real time. So as we go through and enhance and we think about email being recorded constantly so that we can see when an attack vector comes in through email, transverses the network to an endpoint, we can follow it around the network and we can correlate it back into a single view so that when we go back and we have to respond, XDR is not only there to provide enhanced visibility to all of that telemetry into one location, but it also gives us the ability to react quickly, which is very crucial to close that attack vector to make sure we contain it right away. So XDR not only brings visibility across email and endpoint in the environment, but it gives you the capability to quarantine and delete an email, to actually isolate an endpoint, and even at the end of the day, add some threat intelligence internally to your organization where you can spread it out quickly. So if an IOC or an indicator of compromise is found, you can add it to a block list, and this will be pushed out not only to your endpoints, but out to your email solutions also, allowing you to have a comprehensive capability when it comes to actually not only seeing, but also reacting to what is happening. And with XDR being in your environment, it helps better when it comes to talking to insurance providers and getting those levels of compliance. But essentially, you're recording everything that's happening. And especially if a sophisticated state actor or a sophisticated threat is coming into your environment, they know how to avoid the controls. They've learned how to do this. But when you're recording constantly, they can't avoid the recording. And so gaining that visibility into a single platform from a comprehensive solution is very important. But at the end of the day, it's about how you respond to it and how you proactively learn from it, which XDR can continuously enhance your security posture, but also your visibility across your entire environment.
And what I really like about it too is the fact that we have so many clients in our environment protected with Trend. If one of our clients is compromised by a new threat, once we've identified that and understand the attack signatures of that threat, we can scan all of our clients' environments to make sure that none of those attack signatures have presented themselves there. So if an attacker has embedded malicious code and they're kind of lying in wait to make their attack, but we identify it on another client, we're able to scan across all of our clients to make sure that all of that is cleaned up across our entire footprint, which is very powerful. If you are off on your own with your own security product, you don't have the benefit of learning from what other companies are dealing with as far as attacks go.
And you might have answered some of this, but there's a question in the chat. How does OTAVA advise support customers developing a response to an XDR scenario?
So if there's a threat found in your environment, OTAVA is going to alert you based on the escalation process that you put in place. Um, so if you need a phone call to a security team, or you want an email to a distributed list, or if you want us to email you, and if we don't get a response in a certain amount of time, we can escalate that with a phone call so that your security team can take over and do a deeper dive into your environment. We can also take automated actions and shut down access to the endpoints or affected devices to give you time to get a handle on the situation and investigate. I hope that answers the question, chat. If not, feel free to ask any clarifying information.
Definitely. And thank you everyone for joining. As promised, if you could please email hello@OTAVA to get your 25 gift card with a business email and include your name and your company that you represent, and then we'll make sure to send that out for you. Someone from the OTAVA team will be reaching out, so look for the @OTAVA email. Now we'll open it up to questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll hang out for a little bit and go from there.
And I'd also like to open it up if anyone wants to reach out to me with any additional questions or they want to talk about cybersecurity. My email is cmoder@otava.com. More than happy to have a conversation and assess your security posture and see where I can help.
So there's a question in the chat. Is this a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription?
So this would be that would be figured out during the sales process. A lot of our clients set the length of the contract, and you get discounts for multi-year contracting, but we do also offer month-to-month engagements. And we can set up a proof of concept for a short period of time so you can test it out and make sure that it meets your needs as well.
And then there's another question. Is there any location where you have this information other than the slide deck? And Chaz, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, if you go to otava.com, we have our secure framework hub, which contains all of the information about the secure framework and the products within it, and we are continually adding information there. We're releasing some vignettes that go over the secure framework in depth, and we will continue to have webinars. As I said before, you can also reach me at cmoder@otava.com for any additional information, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions.
I see another question here. Can you explain how endpoint protection fits into a broader security strategy?
Yeah, I think we hit on this a little bit during the webinar, but it's important to protect your endpoints because they do have access to your secured environment. So protecting your endpoints and the devices that your end users are on, especially when they're working from home or they're traveling and they're not behind your network firewall, adding that layer of endpoint protection makes it harder for bad actors to compromise their laptop, which are typically less secure, and access through it your secure assets and environment and spread a deeper attack. Most attacks that we've seen in the past have come in through a user's email. They infect their workstation and then they expand their realm of control as a bad actor from there. Kent, do you have anything to add to that, or?
No, that was a good comprehensive answer for sure. But at the end of the day, it becomes the vehicle to your crown jewels in your organization, and having that, obviously that comprehensive protection there is crucial, right? Making sure they can't exploit a vulnerability, making sure they can't execute malware, not only in runtime but also running in memory, right? So having those different layers, and like as I said earlier, it's about that onion and making sure you control and shrink the attack surface, like for and secure. You want to make sure you have that device control in place to make sure they can't plug in a USB if it becomes compromised and stolen in the field, but also at the same time, it's basically the vehicle to everything in your environment, right? At the end of the day, they have to get a foothold. And in most environments, it comes from a low-level employee, and they move laterally. They can find, if they dump the credentials, who the main admin accounts are. So at the end of the day, that's really where a lot of the activity takes place during an attack, and that's why it's so crucial to have all those layers of protection and then have XDR on top of it, or EDR, to be able to record everything that's happening. Once they own your credentials, it's very difficult to keep them out. But if you can get them beforehand, and that's what EDR is really about, is seeing those elements of the attack happening and stopping them before they have an impact on your organization.
Thank you, Kent. There's another question in the chat. Does OTAVA manage the network connectivity to the endpoints, and how do you work with clients to configure the networking, VPNs, and etc.?
Yeah, so we do offer a managed network solution leveraging Fortinet firewalls, and we can set up site-to-site VPNs for different office locations or mobile SSL VPNs for your users in the field. And as far as how we set up and configure the network, we work with you to lock it down as tight as possible and create those rules based on your needs. Obviously, we want to put as the most restriction possible for you to do business so that there aren't any entry points, and that's all about shrinking the attack surface. You don't want to have a port or IP open that's not necessary, because that just creates another vector of attack for bad actors to get in. So we work with you to identify your needs and set up those rules, and then we have Forti Manager on the back end that's looking at the traffic and can help point to maybe some new rules that you need to block geolocations or other attacks that might be happening.
And the chat's pretty quiet, Chaz, but oh, just kidding. There's another question that just popped up. What is Trent's broader strategy regarding AI to improve detection in real time?
So we do have some capabilities which are going to come out later this year. I just spent actually the last week meeting with some very large cloud providers out there and talking about their AI strategies and how we can protect not only at the user level, but actually at the back end of AI, how we can protect the prompts and even evolve into protecting the users. So with AI today, we're seeing a lot of deep fakes out there. We've seen that romance scam evolve into using deep fakes where you can emulate or create anything or any character you want, so you can pretend to be anyone. We've seen this a lot in the APAC region or the Asia region, where they've actually used AI to pretend to be CFOs of companies or even CISOs of companies, having communication and then swindling them out of money by changing or requesting crypto to be moved around. So what we've done is we have a big focus on dealing with deep fakes, which is going to come out. We're going to test it in the consumer market, move it over to our enterprise products, but being able to look for elements and frequency changes in the video to be able to detect if this is a face wrap. Very important, but also in other areas where we're going to focus on the AI itself, because AI is going to become more and more prevalent as we move forward. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that nobody is maliciously injecting anything into the prompts, right? So that's one thing we are seeing. So we are focusing heavily on that. So a lot of what we're going to do over the next year is going to be AI powered as we move through this new attack vector we're seeing. We're going to start to experiment with different technologies, but Trend has been around for 35 years. We've innovated since the beginning. When virtualization came on board, we were the first ones in that game. But as we move into this, we want to be, obviously a pioneer in some areas, and we've met with some very very high value AI pioneers who came up with a lot of this technology. And they've actually backed us in some meetings and said, you guys are going to be at the forefront of this. So at the end of the day, we're thinking about all of these new attack vectors when it comes to AI, and we will wrap protection either at the end user level, at the back end level, because we're going to start to see more and more organizations create AI bots. So chat bots, we have protection that we're going to build in those areas, but also at the end user, making sure that they're not having their prompts maliciously injected with, obviously malicious data. So we'll be there the whole time, and we'll bring all of this as we move forward into our enterprise suites.
Thank you, Kent. And there is another question in the chat. Is this integrated with an Azure environment as well? Can I secure Azure virtual machines?
Yeah, I can take this one. We are already protecting some Azure workloads using the Trend Micro platform today. So absolutely.
So the Trend Micro agent for servers was built with virtualization in mind, and it will work in any of the major cloud providers today. And we do have direct integrations with the three big ones: Microsoft, AWS, and Google. If you have other workloads there.
So the chat is quiet, Chaz, but I wanted to ask, just because it's my favorite question to ask, the secure framework is a layer approach. Is there a certain letter someone should start with, or how should someone start considering implementing within their organization?
Yeah, so the secure framework doesn't have any rules on where to start or where to end. It's really designed to just foster a conversation and meet clients where they're at and focus on where they want to improve and what problems they're trying to solve. So no, you don't have to specifically start with a letter. We want to have a conversation with you and understand where you're at in your cybersecurity journey and help you take a crawl, walk, run approach to implementing more layers of the onion for your defense until we get you to a place that's comfortable. And the evaluate portion of the secure framework is really all about that continuous improvement and looking for ways we can implement more security controls, business continuity plans, testing your business continuity plans, and really having a good cybersecurity strategy overall.
And while I ask you that, there is a question in the chat. Is there an assessment that OTAVA can provide to help determine the security posture?
Yeah, so we have a Telev security assessment that looks at kind of your public posture and identifies any vulnerabilities out there. And if you would like to set up a phone call with any of our account executives, when you send that email in to get your gift card, just let us know that you want to set up a call and we can run one of those reports and have a conversation with you.
They're asking if there's a cost for the assessment.
No, we do that assessment for free, and we would love to have a conversation with you. It's just kind of what we bring to the table for you sitting down and taking the time out of your busy day to meet with us and go over your cybersecurity posture and figure out where we can help.
And I think that's it for the questions. Is there anything that you want us to walk away here, Chaz, regarding these two strategies?
I think the main thing is just a lot of organizations don't realize how important having a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy is. And that's not only just installing some security software, that's having a good backup strategy in place, a disaster recovery strategy, and a comprehensive business continuity plan that you've not only like drafted as an organization, so you have it on paper, how you think you would react, but really testing that out before you're in a tough spot. Um, if you've practiced how you're going to react to these types of scenarios before they're live, you're going to be a lot more crisp and comfortable when it does happen. And that's going to allow you to recover quicker and reduce the damage. And so that's what's really important is just having that strategy and understanding it very well so that you can respond before an attack happens.
Just on that strategy component, I mean, it's very critical to have that the business continuity plan tested so that you can assure that when and if something happens, you are prepared for it. But having a backbone like the secure framework there to support it and have it available, it's consumable. If you look at the other frameworks, you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of. This is more consumable. I love the approach you guys have taken when it comes to this, making it more concise, consumable, and easier to understand, and then leveraging those controls on the back end to really support it. But at the end of the day, as you work through that secure framework, you're seeing all the elements there to make sure that if and when something happens, you have the ability to get back, stood up back as fast as possible. But you can also learn from what's happened, leveraging tools like XDR, and really help strengthen that security posture as you move forward. So it's a great approach for sure.
Thanks, Kent, and thanks everyone. I think if you haven't yet, this is the time to do so. Email hello at OTAVA if you want that assessment that Chaz was discussing about. It's free, so feel free to email us. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.